Today we are going to see in detail about the structure and the function of the stomach. The stomach is J-shaped, dilated portion of the alimentary tract. It is situated in the epigastric, umbilical and left hypochondriac region. The stomach is continuation with the end of the esophagus. When the esophagus joins to the stomach, it makes the esophageal sphincter or esophageal orifice. The end part of the stomach joins with the small intestine known as duodenum. It makes a pyloric sphincter. The stomach is divided into three parts. The upper portion is known as fundus, the middle portion is known as body, and the part that is joins with the duodenum, that is known as pylorus or pyloric antrum. It has got the two curvature. This is known as lesser curvature, and the outer curvature or the bigger cow-shaped portion is known as greater curvature. We can see that the stomach has got three types of layers. The outer layer is longitudinal fibers, the middle layer is made up of circular fibers, and the innermost layer is made of oblique fibers. It also has got the mucosa. When the stomach is empty, the mucous membrane lining is thrown into the longitudinal form. That is known as rugae. When we see the inner portion of the stomach, we can see there are many foldings or rugae. Stomach is never empty. Always there is certain amount of hydrochloric acid that acidifies the stomach as well as the content that comes into the stomach. When the stomach is empty, these rugae are many in number. When it fills with the food, then it gets dilated and the rugae disappears. The blood supply to the stomach is by the artery that is known as gastric artery. That is a part of the celiac artery. The right gastric artery and the gastroepiploic arteries, they provide the oxygenated blood to the stomach, and the venous drainage is by the veins of portal vein. Now we see the gastric juice and the function of the stomach. The stomach size varies with the volume of the food that contains. Normally 1.5 liters or more in adult it can contain. When a meal has taken, the food accumulates in the stomach in the layers. The last portion of the meal remaining in the fundus for some time. Now the mixing of the content with the gastric juice takes place gradually. It may be sometime before the food that is sufficiently acidified to stop the action of the salivary amylase. Mainly the protein digestion takes place in the stomach. The gastric muscle generates a churning action that breaks down the bolus and mixes it with the gastric juice, and the peristaltic waves that propels the stomach contents towards the pylorus. When the stomach is active, the pyloric sphincter closes, and when the stomach is inactive, the pyloric sphincter relaxes and remains open. Parasympathetic stimulation increases the motility of the stomach and the secretion of the gastric juice, while the sympathetic stimulation has the opposite effect. Now we will learn what is gastric juice. About 2 liters of gastric juice is secreted daily by specialized secretory gland in the mucosa of the stomach. It contains water, mineral salt, mucus that is secreted by the mucus cells in the gland, hydrochloric acid, and intrinsic factor that are secreted by the parietal cells of the stomach, and inactive enzyme precursors like pepsinogen that is secreted by the chief cells of the stomach. Now we will see the functions of gastric juice. It adds water to liquefy the food that is ingested. Hydrochloric acid acidifies the food and stops the action of the salivary amylase. It It also kills the microbes that are ingested by the food. It provides the acid environment needed for the action of pepsins. Pepsinogens are inactivated if there is lack of hydrochloric acid. Means, in the presence of pepsinogen, it is activated by the action of the hydrochloric acid. This enzyme begins the digestion of the proteins. It breaks down the protein into smaller particles that can be readily ingested. Intrinsic factor is also one type of protein that is necessary for the absorption of vitamin B12 from the ileum. The deficiency leads to pernicious anemia. Mucus prevents the mechanical injury to the walls of the stomach by lubricating its content. The gastric juice, the hydrochloric acid, is present potentially damaging the concentration and pepsins that would digest the gastric juices. Now we'll see the secretion of the gastric juice. There is always small quantity of gastric juice present in the stomach, even when there is no food contained. And that is known as fasting juice. Secretion reaches its maximum level after 1 hour of meal. Then it declines to the fasting level after about 4 hours. There are 3 phases of secretion of gastric juice. Number 1, cephalic phase. This flow of juice occurs before the food reaches to the stomach. It means when we see the food that is being cooked, or when we get the smell of the food that is cooking. So, by the help of the vagus nerve, this phase, the cephalic phase, is facilitated and it gives us the sympathetic stimulation. It also helps us to increase the appetite if the food is liked by us. If the food is not liked by us, then the action reverses. The second phase is known as gastric phase. When it is stimulated by the presence of the food, the enteroendocrine cells in the pylorus, means when the food or the bolus reaches to the pylorus, this phase begins. To facilitate this phase, the gastrin hormone is secreted by the duodenum, which passes directly into the circulating blood. Circulating the blood which supplies the stomach and it stimulates the gastric glands to produce more gastric juice. In this way, the secretion of the digestive juice is continued after completion of a meal, and thus the end of the cephalic phase occurs. Now we'll see the third phase, that is known as intestinal phase. When the partially digested contents of the stomach reach the small intestine, 2 hormones that are secretin and cholecystokinin are produced by the endocrine cells in the intestinal mucosa. They slow down the secretion of the gastric juice and reduces the gastric motility. By slowing the emptying rate of the stomach, the chyme in duodenum becomes more thoroughly mixed with bile and pancreatic juice. The phase of gastric secretion is most marked following a meal with a high fat contents. Now we will see the function of the stomach. Number 1, stomach is a temporary storage allowing time for the digestive enzyme pepsins that acts on the food bolus. Chemical digestion takes place when the pepsins breaks down the protein into polypeptides. Mechanical breakdowns occurs when the 3 smooth muscle layers enables the stomach to act as a churn. Gastric juice is added and the contents are liquefied to chyme. Limited absorption of water, alcohol and some lipid-soluble drugs occurs. Non-specific defense against microbes that provides by the hydrochloric acid in the gastric juice. Vomiting may occur in response to indigestion of gastric irritants, for example, microbes or chemical gastric irritants. Also, there is a preparation or production of iron for absorption. This acid environment of the stomach solubilizes the intestinal environment, intestinal salt, which are essential for the iron absorption. Production and secretion of intrinsic factor that is needed for the absorption of vitamin B12. Regulation of the passage of gastric contents into the duodenum. When the chyme is sufficiently acidified and liquefied, the pylorus forces small jets of gastric content through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum. The sphincter is normally closed, preventing the backflow of the chyme into the stomach. And the last is secretion